I'm Josh, and today I wanted to walk you through the creation and steps behind a song that I recently made. The kind of, special thing about this song is that I was sort of inspired by a holiday that's happening right now. It's called Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, and there's a couple references to it in the song. So before we start talking about how this song was put together, I thought it might be beneficial for us to, go through just the basics of what Rosh Hashanah is and the traditions associated with it. Of course, this is a channel about music, not really a channel about culture and religion. So, if you already feel pretty knowledgeable about Rosh Hashanah, or if you're just not really that interested in it, I've added chapters to the video, so, feel free to skip ahead. So like I mentioned, Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. It's going to start on the evening of September 7th this year. Jewish holidays, Judaism runs off of a lunar calendar, so our holidays always start in the evening, and that's why I specified the evening, and that's also why I said that it happens on September 7th. This year, it's not September 7th every year, because the Gregorian calendar and lunar calendar are a little bit out of sync. On our calendar, it's going to be the year 5782, if I remember correctly, and Rosh Hashanah is usually kind of a time both for reflection and for looking forward. We're in a period called the High Holy Days, in which we're leading up to our Day of Repentance called Yom Kippur. But along the way, we have practices that are sort of geared towards just thinking about how great the coming year can be. One of the traditions is that we eat apples dipped in honey to wish ourselves a sweet new year. Honey shows up in a lot of Jewish traditions. I remember reading that there was a tradition associated with putting honey in people's books so that they would think learning was sweet on the first day of school. I don't really know how you would use a book that was covered in honey, but, whatever. Also, during services for Rosh Hashanah, we announce the coming of the new year using a ram's horn called a shofar that we blow like a trumpet to, sound the arrival of the new year. So those are the basics of it. Traditions vary from place to place, and the way that, I practice Judaism might be very different from the way that, someone else practices Judaism, and that is okay. Like I mentioned, channel's not really about religion, so if you stuck with me for that explanation, thanks so much. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and ask. I'm more than happy to talk about and answer anything that you might be curious about as much as I am able to. But with that, why don't we shift gears and talk about the song? So, unlike other videos I've made where we start, kind of from scratch and then make a song, here we're going to kind of work backwards because, as you can see from all the pretty lights here on the Deluge, I've already made the song. And so, we're just going to talk about the parts that make it up. And before I start, I'm using the Deluge because it's what I like. But, you don't need the Deluge to make a Synthpop songs. Just wanted to make sure I communicated that. So basically, I constructed the song out of a verse segment and a chorus segment. Whether that's overly simple or not is, of course, up to you. But here is sort of the sounds that I'm working with. So you can see I've got the MIDI out plugged in. Right over here off camera, I have the Korg Prologue, which has this patch I made. I called it Sci-Fi Pluck because I didn't really know what to name it. And I'm using it for a bass. It sounds like this. So that's fun. And then here I have a few different sounds. These are all custom patches that I've put together. This one is called Cassette Lead. That I tried to capture the sound of a kind of dirty cassette. I have a little bit of modulation on the pitch. That's why if you listen, it kind of wavers. And then these are the drums. I grabbed some synth wavy drum samples. And there's not really a lot more to say about that. And then down here is the MIDI channel for the Prologue that I mentioned before. And if we go down a little bit more, I have this arpeggiated pattern. I've called it slurred arpeggio. That's how it sounds. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that specifically in a minute because I wanted to share a kind of fun trick that I like to use with arpeggios. This one is called Glow Pad. And it sounds like that. So I have all these pieces, and I guess if I were to play, say, the chorus pattern, it sounds like this. And a trick that I used to give a little bit of extra motion involves something called sidechain compression. So sidechain compression, that's a really fancy name for kind of I guess like a simple concept. So when I say sidechain compression, what I mean is that I have the Deluge set up so that when I trigger the kick sample in this kit, it sends a signal to say, hey, if you have sidechain compression on, drop your volume. So every time there's a kick, something that's been sidechained to the kick is going to drop in volume and then swell back up. And then there's another kick, drop in volume, swell back up. On the Deluge release, I know that you can sidechain to things other than the kick. I just sidechain to the kick because my brain defaults to that. So in this case, I have the arpeggiation pattern sidechained to the kick. So if you listen to just the arpeggios on their own, they sound like this. Which, it sounds fun, but I like to give it a little bit of extra motion. So now hear how it sounds when I've got the drums going. You can hear how it like swells in. Other things that I'm doing just to, I guess, make it really sort of hit hard in the bass is that I've got just steady eighth notes going in the bass on the Prologue over here. And then, the next thing that I would add in would be the pad. And finally, I could bring in a lead. So yeah, I don't really have a ton more to say about this. I normally would have made it on camera, but I had a spark of, I guess, inspiration. I was very excited to jump into making this song. Thank you so much for hanging out and listening to my spiel about making the song. And if you also happened to listen earlier when I was explaining Rosh Hashanah, thanks for that. But if you didn't, totally okay. Not trying to suggest you did anything wrong if you skipped. But yeah, if you like the video, please consider leaving a like, hitting subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. So, we're going to close off. I'm going to perform the finished song. I also have some vocals added to it for you. And yeah, I will mention that for the video I've made for the song, there's a few flashing lights. I don't know if it would be enough to trigger someone who's like photosensitive, but just in case, it's something I wanted to bring up. Okay, I'm taking up too much time. Let's do the song in 3, 2, 1, go. Time is gone, they say it flies, and some choose to question why we let it all slip by. If I could change, I'd ask instead that we choose to look ahead. There's so many things to do. 57, 82 days pass so fast, as the days are known to do, into a year as sweet as apples dipped in honey here with you. sounded clear. We're calling in the year. It's safe to say a die was cast, and all our roles are in the past. We made mistakes, we're all to blame, but we move beyond the shame. We're in luck, I know we'll find. In the future we'll have time. Days pass so fast, as the days are known to do, into a year as sweet as apples dipped in honey here with you. Days pass so fast, as the days are known to do, into a year as sweet as apples dipped in honey